I'm Otto Penzler. I am in the office of the Mysterious Bookshop, our palatial office down in the basement. It is a cold, windy, snowy day outside, but it's nice and cozy in here. And today we're going to talk a little bit about collecting Dick Francis. Dick Francis, you probably know, was at one time one of the half dozen most popular mystery writers in the world. He was called the best thriller writer of his era. He won a couple of Edgars, and he was named a Grand Master by the Mystery Writers of America. Every possible accolade that could come to a writer went to Dick Francis, and rightly so, deservedly so. He started out his well-known professional career as a jockey, and actually was very successful, and ran for the Queen Mother of England for 4 years, and very famously was riding in the most important steeplechase race of the year. His horse was 10 lengths in front on the backstretch, and for reasons that no one has ever been able to answer, the horse just collapsed and fell. And it was as close as the Queen Mother ever came to winning the grand prize. He soon turned, when he retired, he had a very successful career as a jockey. And when he retired, he became a sportscaster, racing announcer, and then decided to write. His first book was nonfiction. It was his autobiography, and we have a copy here called "The Sport of Queens." And there's a young Dick Francis, and this is the first edition, published in England, and it's inscribed.
Wow.
There's also an American edition. He quickly became so popular that he was also published in the United States, and this is the American first edition. That was 1957 when that came out, and the success of that spurred him to writing fiction, and he started to write mystery novels, crime novels. And here's the first American edition of Dead Cert, which was his first mystery. Very, very, very quickly became very successful. I don't have a British first here. When they show up, they're very hard to find. They're very expensive, but I do have a first American edition. He quickly became enormously successful. Here's a copy of the first British edition of his second book, which is also quite an uncommon book. The very early books were done in fairly small quantities because although he was becoming popular, there were second printings and third printings and fourth printings and so on, but the first print runs were still fairly small. As he became more successful, the jackets became a little bit higher quality, as you can see. Interestingly enough, in the UK, his first book was published by Michael Joseph, not one of the biggest publishers, but he remained loyal to Michael Joseph until the end of his career. Every book that he ever wrote was published by Michael Joseph. In America, when he became more and more successful, look at how big the books became. They're big, fat books, and they were published in huge quantities. And one of the ways you can tell when a writer has real success, the books get bigger. He didn't necessarily write longer books, but the publisher made them look more important by using a thicker paper. And the other way you can tell is even an autographed first American edition, which this is $20. It's
Wow.
very inexpensive, partly because he had such large print runs in those days. Early on, he went to quite a few bookshops, but he had a bad hand, an arthritic hand because of all the accidents. He had more broken bones as a jockey than you could possibly count. But one of the things was he had a badly arthritic hand. But he was so successful, when he came to the store, we would sell 500 copies of his books because he signed them. He only signed in about 2 or 3 stores. And I felt so bad for him at the end, towards the end, when his hand was getting so bad that he would have to press it down on the table because it'd start to spasm for him. But he said, no, no, you were here in the beginning, which we were, well, not in the beginning, but very early. He said, I will always come and sign for you. So he would sign 500 books and press his hand down. It was cramping up. It was very generous of him. He didn't need to do that, but we were always grateful. As a result, because he was so successful in my store, we bought massive quantities of his books. And to this day, we still have scores of first editions that are autographed by him back in the day when he was signing so many books for us. One of the other things that happened when he became so successful is I started to reissue the early books in these limited editions. This is Dead Cert, the first novel, and we published these in something called the Armchair Detective Library, because I published a magazine called the Armchair Detective. I didn't want to call them the Mysterious Press books because Mysterious Press was only publishing originals. So I published in the Armchair Detective Library books that were very popular but were no longer available in hardcover. So I did them in these very nice editions. They were limited to 100 copies, signed by the author, and they went into a slipcase to protect them. And they were very elegant books. I think I did about 7 or 8 by Dick Francis. And here's another sample. That's the second book. And they're reasonably inexpensive these days. I mean, this one, again, limited to only 100 copies, signed, is only $45. Again, those books were for collectors, but I also published them in these editions for libraries because, again, they were available in paperback. They were very successful in paperback, but the hardcovers had gone out of print. So I did these issues in dust jacket for libraries. He also had other publishers who would do limited editions. Here's one from, I think it's Scorpion Press. It is with a new introduction appreciation by H.R.F. Keating, and this is limited to 99 copies, numbered and signed. Quite a handsome edition with marbled boards, leather spine, and these were published in the UK, and this is, I think, $100. So that's Dick Francis. He's an author that's interesting to collect because the early books are a real challenge. They look quite different. The later books are relatively common and relatively inexpensive. So you could put together a pretty nice collection of Dick Francis of most of the titles at a fairly reasonable cost. So the challenge, and then the ability to add lots of books to your collection without having to strain your wallet too much. So that's Dick Francis. Thanks for joining. See you next week.